This is Home Tech, an on a budget series where we look at different gadgets and gizmos to try and teach an old home some new tricks. And in this one, we're having a look at an automatic blind opener. I think this is absolutely brilliant, but before I jump right into what it is and getting it set up and everything, I first want to touch on the price. Now, you can get these blind openers for less than £30, sometimes less than £20 if you're lucky, but those are from sites that will usually take 2 to 3 months plus to get to you. So I did opt to pay a little bit more. The one that I purchased cost £35 and that was from eBay. It was with me within a couple of days, so I think it was worth the extra bit of money. But some of these devices can go for £100 plus if you look on Amazon and other sites, and those tend to have a bit more bells and whistles, but we'll get into that later. First, let's have a look what's in the box with the one that I brought. Now obviously this is going to differ based on which ones you get, but pretty much they all seem to include the same kind of stuff. First thing in the box is the power adapter. Now this is used to mainly charge the battery, so it's not something that you'd have to leave in all the while, but it's probably going to look a bit ugly, to be honest, by having this cable knocking around. It's also not a UK plug, so it's worth keeping that in mind, but you can always use just a regular DC adapter. This is outputting 8.4 volts at 0.5 amps, so as long as you've got an adapter that matches that output, it'll be okay. But of course you could always use an adapter, but I'm not going to be using this. I'm going to be opting to use the included solar panel though, because this can easily suction cup to your window, put it out of sight so you never really see it, and this will offer a nice trickle charge to make sure the battery's always got some power. Also included, we've got some mounting screws and we've got some different options for the cogs. Now you'll pick which one best suits your blind. You can test fit them before you attach them to the drive itself, just to make sure there's a pretty decent connection on your cord. Then lastly in the box, we've got the drive itself, and it has got some weight to it. At the top, we'll remove this, that's where we'll end up putting the cogs later. Also on the top, we've got some tabs that we're going to have to break away to suit where we place it, because you could mount this horizontal or vertical to best suit your situation. We've got a couple of buttons as well, up and down for the blind, and a set switch, and a couple of inputs for where we can put the power and any kind of light sensors and stuff. Also included is a 3M adhesive strip. Now this will be ideal if you don't want to be using the screws to attach it to your wall. I'm going to opt to use this. I think it's going to be plenty strong enough and it saves doing any drilling into the wall. And then lastly, hidden underneath this plastic, we've got the instructions, the user manual, and how to get it all set up. So that's what came in the box with the one that I purchased, but to be honest, they all follow pretty much the same principle. It's a motor that you attach to the wall, you hook your blind loop through, or maybe a loop on a pair of curtains, it goes around a cog, the motor turns, and it opens and closes the blinds. Dead simple. The one that I purchased connects via Bluetooth, so you have to be within proximity of the device. Other variants can connect via Wi-Fi, so you could even control it from the other side of the world if you wanted to, but it all comes down to price and your requirements at the end of the day. But breaking it down, the functions are pretty much the same across the different price ranges. Being able to remotely open and close the blind to different positions, being able to set timers, so at a certain time the blind will open or close, and also the use of light sensors, so when it gets dark the blinds will close, when it gets lighter the blinds will open. Now when you're looking at the more expensive models, they can also communicate with other smart devices in the home. So you could set up a chain of commands, so when it gets dark outside, close the blinds and turn the lights on in the living room, that sort of thing. So that's enough about that stuff. Let's get it installed. It literally takes less than 10 minutes, so let's crack on with it. Before I even think about attaching the drive to the wall and getting it hooked up, I first want to check what cog best suits the cord that I've got. Now the most wide open one, if I try that in place, I can feel that it is catching it, but it's missing out a lot of the steps, so that one is too big for the one that I've got. If I go to the smaller one and I try that one in place, just holding it under tension, give it a spin, it's skipping, so I can feel there it's not really grabbing on the cord, so that one's too small. So hopefully the medium one will be just right. So if I hold that in place, keep it under tension, that will grab, and it is actually adjusting the blind. So that's going to be the one that I need to install. And to do that, I'll just slide off the front cover, which reveals the shaft to the motor. I can then match up the shape of the shaft to the shape in the back of the cog, click that in place, and then I should be able to fit the cord through and hold that under tension. While I'm holding it under tension, I want to give it a quick test, see if it will actually move the blind. Seems to be working okay. Right, so that works. So I've got the right cog installed. Now let's get this attached to the wall. Now to do this, you could use the included screws and they would go through the back on the mounting plate, and this just literally slides in and clicks into place. But I'm going to instead use the included 3M adhesive strip. I think this is going to be a lot easier to install, and if I ever want to move it about, if I change the orientation, it's going to be easier than having to re-drill the wall and put new screws in place. So this should just stick to the back and fit nicely. So peel off this protective part and first stick this down to the mounting plate itself. Apply some pressure, get it stuck in place. Now this should be ready to stick to the wall. And now with the adhesive exposed, you can hook on the cord, try and get it as centered as possible. And now I'm going to add the tension myself, make sure that it actually moves. Yep, and now I'm going to push that in place. And hopefully with some pressure, that should hold it taut. Seems to be working okay. That'll do. Now this panel can be attached, but first I need to break off the tabs that match where my cord lies. So for me, it's going to be the two bigger side tabs. Now that should just slide in place. At this point now it's installed and it's working great. You could add your mains power cable. Like I say, I'm not going to do that. Instead, I'm going to be using the included solar panel. This just suction cups to the window. And once you've got the solar panel in place, you can connect it to the blind drive itself through the sensor port in the bottom. Now we can set the limits and get all of this set up on the app. So I've got the app open on my phone, and when you first open it up you'll see a big plus button. Now obviously this will be different depending on what device you end up getting, but they all tend to have their own apps, and straight away it's popped up for the blind. Gives you some instructions for how to get it set up and installed, which we've already done, so we can go on to the next step. It's searching for it and it asks for a password. Now for this model, the password is 4 8s. You can change that later on, and there it is, there's the blind connected. Now I can go into the settings by pressing the 3 dots at the top. I can see it's already chosen the right blind for me, which is the roller shade, but you can change it to Venetian, verticals, honeycomb, whatever blind you've got really. Get it confirmed. You can change the password if you want. I'm just going to leave those 4 8s. It's no issue to me. And you can change the direction that it's actually going to turn in. You might find that it's turning in the wrong direction if it's on the opposite wall kind of thing. If I had this on the other wall, it'll be turning to a different direction. So I will just check that first. Let's make sure that down, that's right. So it's in the right direction for me, so I can leave that as is, but you can flick that switch to reverse it if need be. So what I want to do is set the upper limit first. So this will be, if I'm opening the blind, where I want it to stop. I don't want it to keep rolling round at the top. So the first thing I'm going to do is close it a little bit, just to get it past that point. Now I'm going to open it and get ready to press stop when it's at the point I want it to stop at. So press open, and I want it to stop about there. So in that position I can now confirm it, and that's set. Now I can set the bottom limit. Now this is where I want the blind to be fully closed. Again, you don't want the blind to fully unravel. So I'm going to close it and get ready to press stop when it's at the point I want it. And I think about there is good for me, and I can confirm that, and those limits are now set. You can also adjust the max moving speed, so you can speed up how fast the blind actually opens and closes. I'm going to leave this as is, but you can have a play around and see what works best for you. So let's open the blind back up a bit so we can see a little bit better. I'm going to open it all the way. On this screen as well, as you can see, you can easily slide to where you want the blind to be open. It gives you your battery percentage as well, so you can see if it needs a bit more of a boost from the mains power, but it should be okay with that solar panel. But talking about the solar panel, it also works as a built-in light sensor. So if you go into the winter and summer mode settings, you can set it up to open and close automatically depending on how bright it is outside. And of course, in the winter, even if it's at like midday, it's not going to be as bright as it would be in the summer. So you can set that up if you want to. You can enable it, change what light intensity you want it to be, so it can be opening when it's really bright, and if it gets too much you can have it closed. You can really have a play around with it and just match it to your needs. but something that I'm actually going to use most of all is going to be the timings. Now I plan to use this a little bit like an alarm clock for me, so I could set this blind to open up at 6 o'clock. That way I'm going to get woken up by the natural sunlight, at least in the summer, perhaps not in the winter, but it should be a nice way to wake up. You wake up, your blind's open, and you're ready to start your day. And again at night, if I'm out from home, I'm away from home and I want my blinds to close automatically for me, I can set up a closing time, and I know when I get back my blind's going to be closed, and you can easily set that up. I can set it to repeat every day if I want. Confirm it, and now that's set, so my blind will open at 6 o'clock. But you might even want it to be set to maybe open the blind halfway at 6 o'clock, or maybe have it close halfway when it gets to about, I don't know, 4 o'clock in the afternoon perhaps. Maybe it's getting a little bit dull now, but you still want a bit of light, or maybe the sun always ends up in a position that's glaring on your telly at 4 o'clock. So you can have the blind to automatically close halfway, bang on 4, and you won't get any glare on your telly. So what do you think of this gadget? Is it something that you'd install in your home? I love my gadgets personally. Anything that can be automated, I jump right on it. Now for me, this blind opener is going to be really useful. I'll be able to set it to wake me up in the morning, so the blind will open around 6 o'clock and the sunlight will be able to wake me up gradually. Might not work so well in the winter, but during the summer months, I think that's going to be brilliant. And if I'm ever away from home, I can have a timer to automatically set the blind so the neighbours can't be peering in. I'm also really looking forward to the time when I settle down to watch a film or binge watch a TV series and the sun hits me right in the eye. I don't have to get up and move. I can just press a button on my phone and the blind will close to a point where it's no longer blinding me. But what do you think? Does it warrant that price point of around £30 to £35, or even £100 plus if you want one with all the bells and whistles? Or would you sooner just use the old-fashioned technique of getting up and adjusting the blind manually? Let us know in the comments down below, because we'd love to hear your thoughts on this. And if there's any other kind of gadgets and gizmos that you'd like us to check out in this series, let us know in the comments as well, and we'll be sure to add them to the list. Don't forget, if you haven't subscribed to the channel already, make sure you click the subscribe button and then click the little bell icon next to it. That way you'll get a notification as soon as you upload a new video. Thank you all for watching. Let's just open the blind. It is good at it.